Welcome to the terrifying 4th episode of On Screen. I'm your host, Dylan Wright, and I'm here to take you on a spooky journey through film and television. So Halloween is almost here, we're halfway through October, and I thought I'd take the next couple episodes to talk about some Halloween, scary kind of things, to really get into the Halloween mood. And unlike stores, I'm doing it in October and not at the end of 4th of July. So on this week's episode, I want to do a list of the most terrifying moments in non-horror shows. So, Walking Dead, Buffy, American Horror Story, they're all out. These are shows that are strictly non-horror shows, but the moments within them are frightening and terrifying and make you cringe and stuff like that. So, number 5 on my list is a moment in Mad Men, specifically in the Season 6 episode Favors. This is some minor spoilers for Mad Men, so if you haven't watched the show and you want to watch it, I would skip ahead until you hear me talking about another show. So the scene I'm talking about occurs in the Season 6 episode Favors, and it's when Sally, who's Don Draper's daughter, walks in on Don cheating on his wife. And the woman he's cheating with is a neighbor that Sally had, talked to and, become friendly with. And Don ends up chasing after Sally. And in that moment, I thought, oh my God, Don is going to kill his daughter. Because at this point, Don has done everything to kind of protect his private life and his secret past life. And it's just a moment that you really like, oh my God, what is Don going to do with his daughter? And Sally, who had looked up to Don and blamed her mother for the falling apart of their marriage and really liked Don's new wife, sees like the image of her father just shatter before her eyes. And you could see just the terror and fear and confusion on her face as she sees her father, who was this hero figure to her, kind of crumble before her. And you see the fear and the anger and the confusion on Don's face when he realizes that Sally had seen him cheating and having sex with another woman. And it's just a terrifying moment because you have no idea what is going to happen. Just your imagination just runs away with you because it's this, heightened emotional moment. You're just not sure how it's going to turn out. So that is my number 5 for the terrifying scenes. So number 4 comes from a cartoon, and before you say anything, it's a Jendy Tartakovsky cartoon, which he's done Samurai Jack and Dexter's Laboratory and Powerpuff Girls, so he's a pretty quality creator. So it's from Star Wars Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars, the computer-generated one, but this is the hand-drawn animated one that came out in the early 2000s. And it's from Chapter 20 within that, and there's the scene where a bunch of Jedi are kind of trapped in this abandoned factory kind of industrial setting. They're being picked off one by General Grievous, who is kind of introduced in this scene as he kind of slasher kills like most of the Jedi, but I think one. He kind of sets himself up as this formidable foe, this terrifying presence as he crawls around and random noises happen. And one of the Jedi is so shaken with fear that he just kind of charges in and tries to kill him, and he ends up getting murdered. And actually, it's funny that he's actually based off of the character of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and his name is Shaggy in the Clone Wars. But yeah, so it's like a real slasher movie inside of this Star Wars series. And it's really terrifying seeing these Jedi get picked off one by one by a presence that you can't see. You only get glimpses of here and there and different noises you hear. And then the full power of General Grievous is suddenly in front of you right at the end of the episode. And it's such a terrifying reveal. It makes the number 4 spot on my list of terrifying moments in non-horror shows. And don't judge me for it because it is frightening. Please check it out for yourself. It's really scary, especially for the audience that it was attempting to show to, young kids and teenagers. So number 3 is a scene in Doctor Who. And I'm sure anybody who's watched Doctor Who already knows what I'm going to be talking about. And it's in the episode Blank, and it's, of course, the Weeping Angels and their reveal. Now, for those of you who aren't in the know about the Weeping Angels, they are basically these alien creatures that have taken the form of cemetery angels, the statued angels that you see in cemetery, that keep their eyes covered with their hands. And the thing with the Weeping Angels, however, is that every time you don't look at the Weeping Angels, they move. They can't move when you're looking at them, but like when you blink, they'll come closer to you, and like, their faces are covered, but then they're not covered, and they have these razor sharp teeth and like stone dead eyes, and if they touch you, they send you somewhere in time, like you're displaced in time. They could also kill you if they want. They've snapped people's necks before, and that's pretty terrifying. But the fact that if you blink, you're dead, like you're going to be gone from these statues that seem harmless until you turn away for a second, and then suddenly they're like right up in front of you. It's fun to see how the protagonists within the episodes deal with this threat that is pretty unique, that if you look away, they can move. It's kind of like the boos in Mario, only a lot deadlier. But that is my pick for number 3 in this list. So number 2 is basically an entire chunk of an episode in one of the Game of Thrones episodes that was in season 5, and that's the episode is Hard Home. And if anybody's seen Game of Thrones, you know what I'm talking about. It's the White Walkers' attack on the wildlings. It's terrifying seeing these like zombie creatures attack like a group of people, and then all of a sudden the group of people that have been killed all rise up and join the forces of the White Walkers. And the White Walker King is kind of grandstanding. He does like this, raises his arms, and all the dead just rise and join the army. And there's just this hopeless look that Jon Snow, as he's riding a boat across the water, he looks back and sees like all of his fallen comrades join the White Walkers. And it's just a terrifying moment to see the hopelessness of the situation, that to fight the White Walkers means fighting death itself. And literally, if anybody from the Night's Watch or wildlings, if they die, they join the other side. And it's the futileness and the hopelessness that show on Jon Snow's face and the other Night's Watch and the other wildlings. It's really powerful and terrifying and scary, because you're thinking, oh no, how could they possibly win against these horrible, horrible odds? So that's my pick for number 2. Now, my number 1 spot might be one of my favorite scenes of all time. It's definitely one of my favorite scenes in the show. The show's Breaking Bad. And of course, there's a ton of scenes that you could pick from Breaking Bad that could be terrifying. I mean, there's scenes involving box cutters, involving bombs, involving someone in a parking lot and realizing that he's about to die. But the scene that I picked is from the episode Crawl Space, and it's the scene in the crawl space. So what happened was, and minor spoilers for Breaking Bad, everybody, what happens is Walter White decides that he needs to get him and his family out because Gus is basically threatening to kill his family, which that's just the general gist. There's a lot more detail to it. He has to have the $50,000 to disappear and change his identity, and he usually has it in this crawl space. So he goes to the crawl space, and the money's gone. And he goes to his wife, Skyler, where's the money? And Skyler had given it all to her boss, who was basically blackmailing her in some way or another. And Walt just breaks down and shouts and screams, but then he starts laughing maniacally. And Skyler looks on horrified as Walt basically just loses his mind because he knows he's going to die. Then the phone rings, and Skyler's sister Marie saying that Hank, who's her husband's life's in danger, and the FBI's there, and Walt is cackling maniacally in the background. It's just a terrifying, frightening, scary moment for the show, and it's my number 1 pick for the scariest moments in non-horror TV shows. So now it's time for my Netflix pick of the week, and I'm sorry about last time not being able to do a Netflix pick of the week, but this week I will recommend to you for the movie. I'll recommend what I was supposed to recommend last week, and that was Galaxy Quest. Such a good movie. It's a great Star Trek parody, but it works so well even if you've never watched Star Trek. It's hilarious. It stars the late Alan Rickman, Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, and it has a bunch of people that weren't famous then but made it big in other careers now, like Justin Long and Rainn Wilson. And it's just a really fun watch, and I definitely recommend Galaxy Quest. So the pick for my TV show is actually kind of a horror TV show, and it's getting a revival on Showtime next year, and that is Twin Peaks. It is the weirdest show that you'll ever watch, and you'll either love it or you'll hate it. But if you're really into supernatural stuff, dream sequences, interpreting dreams, some really scary, visceral horror images, and also making fun of soap operas, Twin Peaks is definitely the show for you. It gets kind of weak, like towards the second season, like the middle of it kind of drags, but the first season and the last part of season 2 end really well, and the movie is also terrifying as well, Fire Walk with Me, but that one's a little harder of a sell because it's a lot darker, a lot more dreary. So I definitely recommend Twin Peaks. So that's going to be it for this week's episode of On Screen. I've been your host, Dylan Wright, and if any of you guys have any suggestions on future topics for the shows, please put them in the comments section. I would love to talk about what you guys want me to talk about. So until next time, take care.